Let's go see Opie! After we landed in Frankfurt and got off of the plane, we immediately started looking for Opie because he flew in a day ahead. And when we finally found him, we were all reunited and it was really fun and we were all so excited. And then the first place we went to was the cemetery where Opie's mother was buried, and it was so beautiful.
The cemeteries in Germany are always beautifully taken care of with real flowers, and people who are related to the deceased come and do it, and seasonally. So now you see summer flowers, and in the spring you see spring, and in the winter you see winter flowers.
Then, following our visit to the cemetery, we drove over to Bodo and Inge. They welcomed us in their house here in Wiesenstraße 1, where I lived for more than 40 years.
We heard every
I don't know
night
why,
the
but all my
airplanes,
friends have passed away or have problems with everything.
and one friend.
I thought it was so cool when Opie showed us his house because it was where he grew up, and it's so awesome to think that like he played in that yard and he lived in that house, and I thought it was so interesting and he gave me a tour. It was wonderful.
I was sitting here with my mother, and tennis players who wanted to play tennis went to the club. They didn't have a game yet. When I saw them, there were some bad, lousy players. I didn't like to play with lousy players. But when I saw a good player, I told him, I'm coming in 5 minutes. I was in the Oberhausen Tennis Club and I had a match, okay? This balcony is like a living room. We had more, in summertime or springtime, we had breakfast, lunch and dinner here. It was beautiful atmosphere, nice cool weather most of the time. And you always saw what's going on the street below. So you were always entertained. This staircase is very old. It's still the original staircase when it was built in 1901. This was my bedroom. And I have been using this bedroom ever since I went to the United States of America. But what I always liked about this home, the view. We went to the Café Klatsch, where Claude had made reservations. It was a beautiful, new, wonderful cafe, buffet style. We had all the food, German food you can eat. And then Claude took us on top of this building, which he owned partially, and he showed us a spot from which you can see the most beautiful side of the old town of Oberhausen, which dates back to the 14th century. A beautiful site with the old pictures of the Catholic Church. Following this visit, he took us to a wonderful and exciting sightseeing tour. He told us all about the history of the German village of Oberhausen and the old parts and what happened during the 30 Years' War and so on. And the highlight of the visit was finally the visit inside the Catholic Church. We were able to see, because normally on Sunday morning people, tourists like us, were not allowed because of their services. But the service was over, and we were able to see this peaceful and most impressive old church. Has always been my favorite church in Germany or France or Austria, where we ever traveled, because of its simplicity, which I like. It's very touching and moving, and I'm happy to say the grandchildren loved it too. And then we went to the elementary school, where I used to go 4 years to elementary schooling, and we walked through other ancient parts of my hometown, Oberhausen. Finally, I went to the tennis club, where I was, of course, champion in mixed doubles, doubles and singles. Unfortunately, they never put up a monument in my honor,
And then Knudi, my cousin, who gave us this wonderful tour of Ursel, invited us for a farewell ice cream, a true Italian ice cream parlor. And that was the first day of your visit to Germany. And now the really fun part of our memorable trip is going to start. Auf Wiedersehen!
Later on that night, we went to Bodo and Inge's house for a garden party. It was great getting the whole entire family together. We had this amazing food that I'd never tried before called Leberkäse, and it's a traditional German meat. And it was so delicious. It was one of the best meats I'd ever had.
So wish you a wonderful tour, a wonderful vacation, and come back home safely and in good shape. It's a pleasure, I repeat, to have you all here.
One of the highlights to me was speaking to Jeugen, and I got to hear some of his stories, and he told me all about the house, and it was just such a great experience for me.
We are very happy with the decision to come. We are delighted, and as you can see, Bodo made all the preparations, and every time our OP came to Oberhausen, always to Germany, always stays with Bodo, because now he grew up. When Götz came to Oberhausen in 1938, he was only 4 years old. I was when I arrived here 11. And so I, of course, remember very good memories.
Feel just wonderful to have so many grandchildren, Götz's grandchildren and kids and so on, whole family here. It's lovely.
So I really did have a wonderful time that night, and it was one of the highlights of my trip.
We left our hotel, and then we got Opie rented us a bus, and we got on the bus and we drove to the airport. We got on a bus and we had to ride for 2 hours. We got out, we boarded the boat, we unpacked and everything, and then we went out, we went on a walk, and then we went down to the restaurant and we ate some good dinner. I had some chicken with mustard and risotto. I didn't like it.
You make me feel so young. You make me feel that spring has sprung. And every time I see you grin, I'm such a happy
I'm really excited.
individual.
Good morning,
Good morning. We've talked the whole night through.
good morning.
Good morning to you.
Today is Tuesday, July 21st, and today we are going to the city of Cologne. So right in the morning, we got up and ate some breakfast, and immediately we got off of the ship, and luckily right next to the ship was the city of Cologne. It was so close, it was right there on the river. We immediately met up with our tour guide, and she was not our favorite, but that's okay. And we went on a little walking tour of the city of Cologne, and we saw the beautiful buildings, and there's so many people there. And the highlight for me was looking at the beautiful cathedral, and this cathedral has been around for so many years. It was built in 1248, and it is gorgeous and stunning. And the cool thing about it is during World War II, it was one of the only places in Cologne that was not bombed. And we were very lucky because we got to go inside and look at the beautiful area inside the cathedral, and it was definitely one of my favorite parts of the day. After that, our tour went into a beer brewery and the adults tasted some beer. After that, we had some free time to ourselves, and my family and I, we walked around, looked at the shops and stuff. It was a lot of fun. And then we went back to the ship for some lunch, and it was delicious as always. And after lunch, we went back out into the city, and we went up to a bridge. It's like a lock bridge. It's so cool. There are thousands of locks there, like bike locks, and couples put them on the fence on top of the bridge, and it shows that their love cannot be broken, and then they throw the key into the river. So we spent a good time looking at all of the different locks. And then Uncle Nico, Aunt Laura, my mom, my dad, Sam, and I, we all went to a beer garden, and the adults had some beer. We sat down, relaxed, and it was a lot of fun.
Wilma came in his underwear. Wilma came in his underwear, Sophia.
And we had a delicious dinner at 7. It was wonderful. Then we went to a cabaret, which I did not enjoy.
What do you think of the dancers?
Are you thinking about the bitches? The dancers were the ugliest girls I have ever seen in my life. I never ever want to see them again. They were just no ugly girls for Opie.
After breakfast, we went upstairs on the top deck, and for 3 hours we sailed down the Rhine. I didn't count how many castles, but probably 10 to 12 castles. We photographed, we watched. It was beautiful. It was the fastest 3 hours. Vicky gave us a commentary on all the castles. It was lovely. And after lunch, we docked around 12:30 or 1. And then this little choo-choo train. We had the option to either go up to see Miss Germany's statue via cable car, or we could take a little choo-choo train and go see the music cabinet. So Grandma Carol and Katie went to see that, and then the rest of us took a cable car all the way up to the top of this national monument, is what Opie told us. And we called her Miss Germany, and Sophia and Sam compared her to the Statue of Liberty. But it was really pretty, beautiful views of the Rhine, and we stayed up there maybe 30 minutes or so. And then we came off the mountain and we stopped at a little cafe and we had wine because they have the best Riesling wine in the region here. So we had a glass of wine and we waited. We got Opie back onto the choo-choo train with Grandma Carol, and then the rest of us slowly walked back down through the shops back down to the boat. It was a lovely, lovely day. The weather was perfect. It didn't rain. Blue sky, well, partly cloudy blue sky, maybe in the low 80s. It was a perfect day.
After sailing all night long, we finally arrived in Frankfurt around 8 a.m. We all loaded onto a bus to go to Heidelberg, which was about a 1-hour drive. We had an amazing tour guide named Isabel, and she did an outstanding job providing the history of the area and the German culture. All of us learned so much on this tour. we were able to tour the Heidelberg Castle, which is one of the most impressive historical landmarks of Germany. We were also able to see so many structure preserves, which are great examples of the medieval architecture in Germany. We were also very lucky because we got to see the famous cellar, which has the famous Heidelberg Fass, which is the world's largest wine barrel that holds more than 58,000 gallons of wine. That's a lot of wine. It was a little bit stinky in there, but it doesn't take away the fact that this wine cellar was gigantic and it was very cool. After our walking tour, we were able to walk the streets of Heidelberg, which was very cool, before we went to go to the restaurant for lunch. After our not-so-delicious lunch, we had such a great time walking around and exploring Heidelberg. We roamed the cobblestone streets and shops, looked all around. We also ran into some gorgeous flowers which reminded us of Patrick, so I made sure to film those for you, Patty Cake. And of course, it wouldn't be a Rhine Bold Pruitt vacation without taking a million pictures.
I have to smile.
Ist Stimmung garantiert, weil bei uns Show und Spaß ganz groß geschrieben wird und Connys.
Marked Heidenfeld, and that was a place where we got a little bus ride tour of a blacksmith shop, the oldest working blacksmith shop, and they don't do horseshoes. They actually make machine parts. But it was really interesting because it's driven by a mill, a water mill, and that was really interesting. Got to go to this restaurant out in the country. It was a winery. Sample the wine and drink a lot of beer and have a great traditional Bavarian meal. And they were so friendly. There was a band that played there. And we danced and sang and just had the best time together. Hanging out, I really enjoyed that. It was just a picture-perfect day. The weather was nice. It was warm and sunny.
After sailing all night long, we finally woke up in Würzburg. And Würzburg is a village surrounded by vineyards, and 90% of the city was destroyed during World War II, but many of the buildings have been restored and you never know, anything happened. In the morning, we got to visit the Würzburg Prince residence, and it was so beautiful, but unfortunately, we were not allowed to take any pictures or video inside, but we did get to go visit the beautiful gardens outside of the palace. Everything was so green, there were beautiful, vibrant flowers, and it was one of the highlights to me. Afterwards, we had a wine tasting in the residence cellar in the palace. The adults tasted some wine, and it was really pretty down there because it was filled with candles, pretty place settings, and wine barrels. Then we went back to the ship for lunch, and we met up with Patrick after he finally arrived at the ship, and we were all so happy to see him. After lunch, we took an hour bus ride to Rothenburg, and we only had 1 hour and 15 minutes there, but we still had such a great time. Grandma Carol, my mom, and I went to visit the Christmas Museum, and we saw beautiful representations of historical Christmas in Germany, while everyone else went to visit the Torture Museum. After the museum, Sam and I went to a bakery and we got some Schneeballs, which are a typical dessert in Rothenburg, and they were dry, but they tasted pretty good. arrived in Bamberg around 4 p.m. and we all took a bus to the city. Bamberg is a very picturesque and beautiful place, and it is known as Venice of the North. We went on a historical walking tour and we visited the cathedral and the Benedictine Abbey of Michaelsburg. We saw lots of beautiful architecture and we also heard a really pretty violin. We also went and walked through a beautiful flower garden and took a bunch of pictures. Afterwards, we walked down to an old tavern that used to be a monastery for centuries, and the adults tasted some smoked beer because that's what Bamberg is known for.
We're in Bamberg, Germany, at the beer temple. This is where we are.
How many have you had? That's the easy way out.
Here's a prop. This is my prop. It's very yummy. So, bacon beer. Smoked bacon beer.
Take a sip. Delicious. Bunch of that is the word.
Early in the morning, we took a bus and went to the documentation center in Nuremberg. We went through a museum exhibit where we learned all about the Nazis and World War II, and the mood was very depressing because of the horrible things that happened in the past. We also visited the Zeppelin Feld, which is the enormous parade grounds where Hitler addressed his largest Nazi rallies held during the 1930s. It was very depressing, but also very powerful. After our tour ended at 11:30, we were finally able to enjoy 3 hours of free time. We decided to visit the St. Sebaldus Church, which is a beautiful old Gothic structure built between 1230 and 1273. It's the city's oldest and most important church. We got to see a very detailed and intricate sarcophagus, which I had never experienced before, and I thought it was very interesting. After visiting the church, we had lunch at the Goldines Pothorn, which is the oldest wine restaurant in Germany. We all indulged in typical Nürnberger sausage, oxtail, pork shoulder, and Wurstsalat, and it was very, very delicious. After lunch, we split up. The boys went on a walking tour up to the wall, while all the ladies went shopping for Lebkuchen and to the Henderkopf Craftsman's Precinct, a little village with small crafts, narrow streets, and boutiques. We got a good taste of the Nuremberg city, which was honestly one of my favorite moments of the trip. In the morning, as we were approaching Regensburg and the Danube River, we had a leisurely breakfast and sat in the Captain's Club. Later for lunch, the ship provided us with a delicious Bavarian meal. We had Leberkäse, sausages, potato salad, and a bunch of delicious desserts.
Delicious!
They even had blue and white napkins, and it was just a really fun time for lunch. Then at 2:30, we walked around Regensburg and we were given a guided tour. Regensburg is a very well-preserved city in Germany because everything is original since the city suffered no major damage during World War II. We got to visit the St. Peter's Cathedral and one of the oldest sausage restaurants in the area, and I thought it was super cool seeing all of the beautiful historical buildings in Regensburg. After our guided tour, all of us had some free time, and Sammy and Opie decided to have some ice cream together, and Opie had a beer. Meanwhile, my mom, dad, and I, we all walked around and we went into some shops. We loved this little hat shop that we found, and we tried on some fun hats. We also went to the Kaufhof, which is a German department store similar to Belk's, and it was my first time experiencing a German market. We bought a bunch of yummy marzipan and chocolate, and of course some Underberg for my dad. After stopping at a little cafe, we did some shopping, and I was so happy because I found these really cool sandals. I love them because they're different, and I still have them. And then we made our way back down to the ship. morning we arrived in Passau and we had a tour. We were given a great tour guide named Chris, and he was one of the best ones we had during the whole trip. But he showed us a lot of places in Passau. We walked around the streets, and he also showed us what the difference is between Gothic and Baroque style cathedrals, and he even taught us a little dance to remember, which was very funny. We also visited the St. Stephen's Cathedral, and it was destroyed in the 17th century, but it was rebuilt in Baroque style. And then we were treated to an organ concert in the world's biggest church. After the concert, we had 5 hours of free time, and Uncle Nico, Aunt Laura, and Patrick walked up to the fortress for lunch, and the rest of us had pizza and salads at an Italian restaurant, and it was delicious. After lunch, we visited a glass museum, and it was very cool seeing rows and rows of glass. It was the most glass I've ever seen in one place. Then Aunt Laura, Uncle Nico, Patrick, and my family and I, we all met up again, and we decided to walk down to the river point, and that's where all three rivers merge, and this was so beautiful and cool because you could see the color changes in the rivers when they met.
We had to wait for the boat to actually catch up to us in Wieshofen, and we went into a restaurant and had wine and beer and pretzels and some cheese and sausage, and finally our boat arrived at 7:30 in the evening, 7:45. It was a little bit late. So we all finally got back on the boat and went immediately to dinner, and everybody was tired, so I think we retired very early. But anyway, that was our day in Passau.
Sailed down the Danube River. It was absolutely spectacular. We went through the Wachau Valley. It was even more beautiful than the Rhine River. Around lunchtime, we went on the city tour of Vienna. Beautiful, clean, cultural, overwhelming, big city, very cultural in terms of a lot of beautiful people. If you take all the tourists out of the way, beautiful women, men, couples, just very classy and cultural.
On our tour, we got to visit the National Library, which is a very old library that houses more than 200,000 old books, and it was really cool seeing all those shelves. And we also saw some beautiful painted ceilings and some pretty sights in the city. Then we were so lucky because we got to see the famous horses in Vienna, and this was very rare, and they were still little babies, and they were so adorable. After the tour, we had the rest of the day free, and we walked around the city, and we saw some chocolate. We stopped at a cafe.
Vienna? It's chocolate, and it has a filling in it. But Vienna is famous for its Sacca Torte from the Hotel Sacca, and it's a cafe, and you can go in and you can have a piece of Sacca Torte also and a coffee. And look at that, isn't it beautiful?
As in Uncle Nico, Laura, Art, and me, we took Opie and Grandma Carol as a thank you, the minimum that we can do for this wonderful trip. We took them to this lovely restaurant, the Laschutas Gasthaus zur Oper, for a thank you dinner and the family. We had a fabulous meals, definitely a highlight. Opie and I also shared a steak tartare, which was fabulous. It was a really memorable moment, very special and a little bit Toya, but it was worth every minute.
We are in the Gasthaus zum Oper in Wien, the original restaurant that served the first and original Wiener Schnitzel. And we just ordered it. It will come with potato salad and a
The following day and a half, we went to the Schönbrunn Palace. Some of us went to the Belvedere Museum to see the Klimt, the Kiss. Some of us went to a beautiful Stadt Park. We walked, we saw all the beautiful buildings. But the ultimate highlight of Vienna was the Konzertsalon. We were treated to a 1-hour concert to Strauss, Brahms, Mozart. Probably one of my most memorable moments where we heard beautiful, beautiful music that truly brought me to tears.
The concert was beautiful. There was an awesome singer.
I'll never forget it, how it made me feel. It was spectacular.
After breakfast, we hopped on an 8:30 a.m. shuttle bus back to the center city for 3 hours of free time in Vienna. We had a really nice, relaxing morning, and we actually went to visit a really pretty butterfly garden. We saw some beautiful flowers and some really beautiful butterflies as well. And then we stopped in at the famous Cafe Mozart for some coffee. We bought a few souvenirs, and then we got back on the last shuttle to the boat. Yay! Then we had the afternoon on the ship as we were sailing, and the crew put a wide array of desserts on the table, and there were so many. It was so pretty. We did not eat many, however, because we were already stuffed from lunch, but it was so pretty, so I had to film it.
You are still ugly, yes. And black. And black. Ready? Are you going to be sad when we leave?
Of course. Yeah, you're going to bring balloons. Balloons, yeah. Big party. Yeah. You're going to be sad for Sophia, but Sammy, balloon.
Disco ball.
And then we sadly had the last captain's dinner, but it was such a fun night. We had a 5-course meal with, as always, delicious food, and the crew was so nice. They had like a huge presentation, and they gave us some delicious baked Alaska with their amazing famous ice cream. And after dinner, we had a dancing night again. It was so much fun. A bunch of adults went out on the dance floor, and Opie and Carol were busting some moves out there. It was so much fun. We were joking around with Freddie and Boyan and everyone, and it was just a great memory.
Hey baby, yeah, you throw me so. Hold me tight, don't you let me go.
We are in the lovely town of Budapest on our last full day here on the ship. We had breakfast, and the usual wonderful breakfast. Our last breakfast with the wonderful omelets and brötchen and salamis and cheese and fruits. you name it, we were all sad because it was our last morning breakfast. Anyhow, after breakfast at 9 a.m., we went on a bus ride, a bus tour of the city. We started on the right bank, which was Pest, and Pest side is more of a business commercial side of the city. And from there, we went across the river to the Buda side of the city. And we went up the hill, because on the Buda side there are much more hills than on the Pest side. On the Pest side it's all flat. And Buda is more of the residential side of the city. And we went up a large hill, and on the top of the hill there was a old town part, and there was a nice big church, St. Stephen's Church, as well as the Fisherman's Bastion. The Fisherman's Bastion had a wonderful view of the city, down to the river, and across the river was the Parliament buildings. Extremely gorgeous.
My house in Budapest, my hidden treasure chest, golden grand piano, my beauty focus EOU. Ooh, you, ooh, I'd leave it all. My acres of land I've achieved. It may be hard for you to stop and believe.
And then we had some free time, and we walked around, and I took some really cool pictures of the reflection of the church, which I hope turned out to share. But anyhow, after our free time, we came back to the ship, had some lunch, and then after lunch, we went on an optional tour out into the Hungarian countryside to see a horse show and a horse farm. And the show was quite interesting. We saw different types of horse events, and we got to see where the world champion horses were housed, and we had a little bit of palinka, which is a Hungarian brandy. And it was a rather nice afternoon. It was raining when we left the ship, but by the time the afternoon ended, it was quite sunny. Then we came home, and then we had a beautiful dinner, and I also had arranged for a birthday cake to be given to Laura, since her birthday is on the 4th. So that pretty much wraps it up here in Budapest. Hope you enjoyed my commentary.
House in Budapest, my hidden treasure chest, golden grand piano, my beauty focus EOU. Ooh, you, ooh, I'd leave it all. My acres of land I've achieved.
My favorite part was probably Oberösel or the concert. I loved Oberösel because I could see everyone, Jeugen, Bodo, everyone. It was just really exciting. I loved it.
My favorite part of the trip was probably either the concert in Vienna or Heidelberg. I really have loved every single part. It's so hard, but I really did love Heidelberg and the concert.
I guess my favorite part would have to be the smaller towns in Bavaria. I think they had a feel to them that is something I've never experienced before. For example, seeing all the flowers on all the windows, and going into the little cafes or beer gardens or things like that, and all the old towns. I love that part. Being able to spend time with everybody and do everything on our own time. You know, just stop in and get a beer, or stop in and get some food, and especially in Passau when I got that great pork knuckle, and that view was amazing. But being able to do that and just choosing what we wanted to do was nice after coming from such a regimented itinerary from the ship.
Some of my favorite moments from this trip, well, first of all, the trip in itself is going to be a memory for a lifetime for me and my kids, my wife. I'm just so happy that we got to experience this together. But some of the things that really stand out to me, I think, I like the smaller towns. They're not so tourist laden, and you feel like you get to see the locals as they are.
My favorite day was when we were in Cologne at the castle, and we had to be boarded on ship at 10:45 because the ship left at 11. And Nico and I ran across the bridge with his camera because he loved taking pictures. And we ran across the bridge and took a shot of the city, the cathedral, the bridge, and several other churches that were there. It was really fun. We got back at 10:43 to find Vicky standing at the front door, and Natalie and Art all looking at their watches. Tick tock, tick tock. But we made it back. We would have not ever held the boat up for any reason, and Nico got some awesome pictures.
There were so many favorite moments, but I have to say that my favorite moments was being able to spend time with the family. We do have our family dinners at home, but it's not the same as being with the family for a whole 2 weeks, and it will be something that we will never forget.
If I had to pick out one thing, it was probably the concert in Vienna. It was lovely. Yeah, it was. We enjoyed it.
There's only one answer. Apart from all the beautiful sights we saw, like Oberursel, Vienna, of course, for me, the most important part was the togetherness with the family. I felt all along that everybody appreciated the trip, our time together, which for me is worth every penny, and I will, as long as I live, always remember this trip.
My favorite part, besides all the wonderful cities we saw and the castles and the domes and the rivers, etc., was watching all of the family enjoy everything that we saw and experienced. There's an old saying somewhere, I don't know exactly how it goes, but when you give a gift, it keeps giving back to you. And that's the way I feel. I really feel that it has been more a gift to me and to Gertz, to Opie and to Carol, than what we could have ever given you.
Well, with me, I guess, as I said earlier, the whole trip to me was my favorite because it's so overwhelming. The beauty of the history and the relaxation. But now, after this night cruise, I can see and understand why they call it the Pearl of the Danube.
My favorite part of the trip, wow, that's really hard. Oberursel, of course, was number one. Another really memorable moment to me that I'll never forget was watching Opie, 80-year-old Opie, dance with his grandchildren last night at the captain's farewell dinner, and then there was a dance. I will just never forget him. I was just so proud to see my dad and my children dance together, and it truly will be a memory that I will have forever.
Baby, if you want me, then
Trip was one of my favorites ever to experience, and I'm glad I've been writing in my diary so I can always remember it. I'm glad Sophia's doing this. It was my favorite trip I've ever done, and hope to do it again.
Thank you so much for taking us on this trip. It's definitely been one of my favorite trips I've ever done in my life, and I've had an amazing experience, and just coming to Europe was like so amazing, and I've had the best memories.
I just want to say, Opie and Carol, Papa and Carol, thank you so much. I can't express my gratitude for the generosity that you provided for this trip. It was just amazing, just incredible, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much.
Danke, Gertz and Carol, thank you so much for this trip of a lifetime. We appreciate it so much.
Danke, Opie and Grandma Carol.
Danke, Opie and Grandma Carol. Love you guys. Danke, Opie and Grandma Carol. I love you guys so much. Thank you.
Danke, Gertz and Carol. Thank you so much.
Danke, Papa. Danke, Carol.
Danke, Papa. And Carol, too. Mwah! Love you.
my hidden treasure chest, golden grand piano, my beautiful Castillo, you.